My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 90 years old. That number still feels unreal when I say it quietly to myself. 90 sounds final. But what surprises me is how unfinished I felt for most of my life. I'm sitting alone as I speak this. The room is still. The kind of stillness you only notice when there's no one left to perform for. For decades, I believed arrival was something that happened later, after work settled down, after responsibilities eased, after I became the version of myself I kept preparing for. I didn't realize preparation could become a place you never leave. When I was younger, life moved fast. Years changed the way faces change in passing windows. Jobs, cities, habits, all of it shifted before I could look too closely. I told myself that was progress. But somewhere along the way, I stopped asking a simple question. Am I actually here? I remember being 40 and already feeling late. Not late for anything specific. Just behind something I couldn't name. People around me looked settled, confident, certain. I copied that posture. It worked well enough. What I didn't understand then was that copying stability isn't the same as feeling it. I kept moving forward because standing still felt dangerous, like something would catch up with me if I paused. So I didn't pause. Years passed quietly that way, not badly, just unattended. And now, at 90, time feels different. It doesn't rush me anymore. It just waits. That's why I'm saying this now. Not to explain, not to teach, just to finally speak from where I am. Because it took me 40 years to arrive, and I don't have many left to delay. The cost of waiting is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as conversations you half-enter, as decisions made for comfort instead of truth, as years that pass cleanly, without friction, and therefore without depth. I don't regret my life. That's important to say. Regret is too simple a word. But I do feel the weight of time spent circling myself instead of standing still long enough to listen. Arrival, for me, didn't mean achievement. It meant stopping the internal delay. It meant letting moments land without asking what they were leading to. By the time I understood that, my body had already started to slow. The irony isn't lost on me. I arrived just as I began to leave. These days, memory comes and goes. Some faces blur. Some moments stay sharp as glass. I speak more softly now, partly out of courtesy, partly because I don't feel the need to fill space anymore. I notice things I rushed past before. The way morning light touches the wall. The sound of my own breathing when the room is quiet. The fact that being here is enough. If I sound calm, it's because I am. Not peaceful all the time, just settled in a way I wasn't before. I don't feel late anymore. I feel present. That took me 40 years longer than I expected. If this recording stops suddenly, that's fine. I said what I needed to say. Not to explain, not to leave instructions. Just to mark that I finally arrived. When I stopped there, it wasn't because I ran out of things to say. It was because I finally understood the difference between continuing and filling space. In my younger years, rest felt like falling behind. I measured days by output. If nothing visible came from them, I considered them wasted. After 85, rest stopped asking permission. For most of my life, the present was a corridor. Now, the present has stopped being a hallway. It is a room, and I am already in it. I give my attention to small things now. The way light fades, the weight of a book. There is dignity in limitation when you stop fighting it. I used to think preparation was the point. Life opened when I stopped preparing. It naturally settles here. The first real crack didn't come with tragedy. It came quietly, which is why I almost missed it. I was in my early 50s, staring at jars of pasta sauce. Too many choices. I remember feeling suddenly tired. A man about my age reached past me, apologized, and moved on. I watched him walk away. I had the strange thought that I could trade lives with him and nothing would really change. That thought stayed with me longer than it should have. When the noise quieted, something in me grew louder. I started remembering things, a book I once wanted to write, a place I almost moved to. It felt unfinished. My wife noticed before I did. She asked questions I didn't know how to answer. I gave safe responses, practical ones. We'd been good at that together. Then she got sick. The kind of illness that rearranges your sense of time. Life narrowed to what mattered immediately. After she passed, the house felt enormous. Grief strips away performance. I had lived a careful life, but I had delayed inhabiting it fully, as if I were waiting for permission that never came. I wasn't unhappy before, but I wasn't fully present either. The realization came in pieces, sitting longer with discomfort instead of rushing past it. Then one afternoon, in my 70s, I was resting on a park bench. I watched leaves fall without ceremony, and for the first time, I wasn't measuring myself. No timeline, just presence. I realized I'd spent 40 years trying to become finished, instead of simply arriving inside my own life. It changed how I noticed things. Silence has a weight to it when you let it stay. Not the kind that presses down on you, but the kind that settles around you, like air after a door closes. After that pause, I stopped marking time altogether. Time stopped being something I tracked. It became something I felt. At 90, life asks you to notice where you are standing. Getting out of bed is deliberate now. Each movement has intention. There's a dignity in that awareness. I used to move through my body like it was a tool. Now it's a companion, fragile, stubborn, loyal. When it hurts, I listen. That relationship took me decades to learn. In the quiet, I revisited moments I once believed defined me. What felt central were the moments I ignored. A conversation cut short, an evening rushed through, a feeling dismissed. Those moments shaped the distance I lived with for so long. At 90, avoidance is no longer available. That clarity is uncomfortable at first, then grounding. Every experience feels unrepeatable. This exact morning will not return. That knowledge sharpens attention. I arrived when I reversed the order of ignoring my signals. As energy faded, honesty took its place. Relief came from stopping the chase. I arrived after losing many things I thought were essential. Ambition softened. Pride thinned. What remained was enough. Enough awareness to notice life as it is. Enough humility to stop demanding more. The cost of waiting 40 years wasn't failure. It was delay. Delay in inhabiting my own life fully. Fullness came when I stopped asking life to be something else. Arrival makes life closer. Closer to your own thoughts. Closer to what actually matters. At 90, you don't carry illusions well, so you put them down. What replaced them was quiet acceptance. Not passive, but accurate. I am here. I am old. I am aware. That's enough. The world doesn't need me to keep moving. It gave me the chance to arrive before leaving. I arrived when I stopped waiting for myself. I arrived when silence stopped feeling empty. I arrived when time became something I was inside of. Thank you for listening. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Until we meet again, what comes next isn't louder. It's simply closer. After the noise thinned, I found an intimacy with time itself. Time feels different when you're 90. It no longer stretches ahead like a promise. It sits beside you, quiet, almost polite. I notice it in the evenings, the way dusk arrives in my body. Thoughts slow down, not from confusion, but from selectiveness. I used to worry that losing urgency meant losing meaning. It didn't. What happened instead was concentration. When time is thin, you don't waste attention. I stopped following arguments that didn't involve me. I stopped justifying my hesitations. For years, I lived as if my real self existed somewhere ahead. I deferred myself endlessly. I arrived when I stopped deferring. At 90, curiosity doesn't have to lead anywhere to be valid. I can't afford to be half-present anymore. Silence no longer feels like failure. It feels like room. People talk about legacy, but those questions don't interest me. I won't control how I'm remembered. What matters is simpler. Did I finally live without postponement? Did I arrive before I left? The answer is yes. Not early, but honestly. Arrival doesn't require a future. It requires presence. It's available if you stop standing at a distance. In truth, arrival is something you allow when resistance wears out. My resistance wore out slowly, decade by decade, until there was nothing left to hold it up. I didn't defeat it. Time did. And time isn't cruel, it's precise. It removes what you can no longer carry and leaves you with what you must. What I must carry now is light, not optimism, just lightness. I don't argue with myself anymore. If I sound settled, it's because I finally am. Not because everything makes sense, but because I no longer need it to. There are nights when I lie awake, listening to the building breathe. I stay. That once felt like confinement. Now it feels like arrival sustained. Arrival isn't a moment, it's a relationship you stop abandoning. I came here because honesty feels appropriate. There's nothing left unresolved in me now. Not because I solved everything, but because I stopped insisting life owed me resolution. I arrived without answers. I arrived without applause. I arrived when there was nothing left to wait for. That's enough. I'll stop here. Thank you for listening. This is what it means to truly arrive. Weekends, arrival is presence, and presence is enough. When things settle, you start noticing what still moves underneath. After that pause, days felt less like chapters and more like fragments. Small, self-contained. I stopped expecting continuity. Each day stood on its own, and I met it without demanding it resemble the last. That change sounds minor. It wasn't. For most of my life, I needed days to connect. Progress depended on momentum. If something didn't lead somewhere, I felt uneasy, like I was wasting time. Now, time behaves differently. It doesn't ask to be used wisely. It just passes, whether I cooperate or not. I remember the first time I forgot what day it was and didn't correct myself. No consequence. Nothing collapsed. That was strangely freeing. Memory became sharper. Certain scenes replayed with more clarity, as if they had been waiting for me to slow down enough to see them. One afternoon, I remembered a drive in my 30s. I pulled over for no clear reason. Just sat there with the engine running, staring ahead. My hands rested on the wheel, tense, bracing for impact that never came. I didn't know it then, but I was already existentially tired. I drove away and never thought about it again until now. Moments like that don't register as important because nothing happens. Just an unexplored pause. Those pauses accumulate. They don't demand attention when you're young. They wait. In my 70s, I was still telling myself there would be time later. By my 80s, later stopped responding. That's when I understood the cost of misunderstanding arrival. It wasn't about missing opportunities. The cost was living in a constant state of rehearsal. Always preparing to be more honest, more present. Rehearsal keeps you safe. It also keeps you distant. I stayed one step removed from my own life, observing myself instead of inhabiting the moment. That distance protected me from discomfort. It also dulled joy. Inside, it feels unfinished. When my body began to weaken, that distance collapsed. Pain pulls you into the present, whether you're ready or not. Once I was fully here, I realized I had always been capable of this. I just didn't choose it. I understand the fear now. To arrive fully means to accept nothing else is coming. No future version. No final understanding. That's heavy when you're younger. It sounds like surrender. From where I sit now, it feels like relief. I spent years trying to earn the right to rest inside my own life, as if comfort had to be justified by achievement. As if peace required proof. These rules were internal. Letting them go felt irresponsible at first, then necessary. In my 90 years, I've learned necessity doesn't always announce itself loudly. It just removes alternatives. I arrived because everything else fell away. Ambition softened. Expectations faded. Comparison lost its grip. The future shortened until it stopped dominating the present. What remained was not enlightenment. It was honesty. Honesty about my limits, my past, and how little control I ever really had. That honesty steadied me. I move through the day now with less resistance. When my body asks for rest, I give it. Pain passes faster when you don't argue with it. There are moments when fear surfaces, mostly at night. Thoughts about dependency, losing clarity. I sit with them until they lose their edge. Fear changes shape when observed. In my younger years, fear was constant, disguised as planning. Now, irrelevance feels like freedom. I don't need to matter widely. I just need to be awake, not a place you reach, a way you stop standing at a distance. I arrived when I stopped asking my life to justify itself. There's a quiet confidence in that, the kind you feel when you no longer need permission to exist as you are. This part of the story doesn't end with resolution. It ends with steadiness. I'll pause again here, not because there's nothing left to say, but because what comes next deserves its own space.